One specific incident in college with a girl who we both had a disagreement, and she got angry and she pulled out a knife, a chef's knife, in my face, innit? So she
Wait, this is on the 15 program?
Yeah, it's on the program. She's gonna stab me up, and that was the altercation. You know what I'm saying? In the end, they calmed her down. They got the knife out of her hand, but she had her own challenges. Likewise, I had mine.
I'm Zach, investigations editor at The Express. You're watching On The Edge podcast. I've got joining with me Pat Campbell today. Pat, why are you here? What's your story?
Thanks for having me, firstly. Appreciate it. I would say my story is something about myself and the work that I do and the community work that I do and what I kind of stand for, really.
So starting out, you were telling me you were born in Jamaica.
Yeah. I was born in Jamaica. I came here when I was 7 with my mum. My mum was here first and my brother came straight after, then I come like a year after.
Okay, so tell me about that. 7 years old, you must remember the move. That's a big switch, right, of environment going from, where did you go from Jamaica to Hackney? It
was big because I wasn't used to the UK. When I came here, I basically came into something that I felt like was not for me. I struggled a lot of it, with my mum especially, and I think that kind of told in my behaviour because when I came to school, no one could understand, obviously me having patois. A lot of the work was quite easy, and teachers couldn't understand the word that I was even saying, which was very difficult for me. And I struggled from that all the way up till about year 6. That was really what really went through it for me. And yeah, I was in and out of trouble starting from the day I landed in school, just because of my accent.
Just because other kids was like, you stood out, or was it?
I would say it stood out because of my accent. Teachers didn't understand my accent, and I used to get in a lot of trouble for that. And I think now I look back at it, especially working in the same similar environment, I see other kids from different ethnic groups and different minorities who struggle with the same thing. And it's just a language barrier. You know, naturally when a child is, distracting or making an issue in class, it stems from something. And that was my issue, where I kind of struggled, especially being a young Jamaican boy that was different to a lot of different other students in school.
And so like you getting into, like, what were the kind of things that would happen?
So for instance, because I'm a very sociable person, like I said, the work, naturally in the Caribbean, I would say, a lot of our work that we do, we are quite ahead of a lot of people in terms of the schooling that we do, because you can't take it for granted over there, you've got to pay for everything. So we took schooling very serious. I'm not saying the same thing isn't the same in the UK, but what is in the Caribbean is that it's much more stricter. And obviously, when I was growing up in the Caribbean, you used to get beats from the teachers. Do you know what I mean? So when you came here and obviously you saw the work they were doing, I was ahead in year 3 with my times table and stuff like that. And then because of the fact that I was ahead and the teachers would see that I'm good at my work, it kind of became a back and forth thing where they couldn't understand me. So it's very easy to take out one child out of class and leave them outside, and then that child becomes a label in the whole kind of school. Why is he always out of class? But it was never my work. It was morally because of I was disruptive and stuff like that.
That must be pretty frustrating. Of like, if you're ahead and then you're getting in trouble, what? Because you're talking back to the teachers, or the teachers just don't get you because they can't understand.
Yeah, that would it. Yeah, it was very frustrating. But that took me years to get to the stage of me understanding it now. And fair play to the teachers. I don't look back at it now and say to them, look, it's their fault. I just think it's a school system fault. It's just the fact that a lot of teachers struggle with the same thing, especially when they can't understand another young person from something that's totally different to them. You know, bear in mind, a teacher's got to teach 30 kids. So it's very easy to remove one child from that class because you still got to take care of the whole class, really.
Yeah. And what was like Hackney like back then? Because I think it's one of those areas in London that's changed a lot, right?
Yeah, Hackney was beautiful back then, man. It was rough, but it was culture, you know? It was very, very much culture. Like, I couldn't fault the upbringing that I had in terms of my friends that I grew up with. You know, we enjoyed growing up. We played outside every day. We was always at my boy's house, either playing GameCube, Xbox, FIFA. Like, we lived and breathed football. Obviously, me coming from Jamaica, I couldn't kick a ball. I couldn't kick a ball to save my life. I was used to, in Jamaica, we just used to run a lot in it. Where I grew up in Jamaica, a lot of people in Jamaica did know how to play football, but where I grew up, it was always about running and trying to be the fastest person. A race for us was excitement. So when I came here and I was talking to my friends and my friends was all playing football in the park, they actually taught me how to play. I learned at like age 9 how to play football. Like, everyone else knew how to kick a ball, dribble and all these sort of things. All my friends started to teach me, and then I gradually learned that way.
Yeah, and then you started enjoying it, and
then I started enjoying it. Yeah, and started taking it as something I wanted to do. I wanted to be obviously a young footballer. Every kid dreams of it. And yeah, that was it for me. That kind of helped me along the way on my path and on my craft to obviously shape my story to where I am now. Which, yeah, I got to pay some homage to a lot of people that helped me with the football journey that I had, to be fair.
And then, like, so obviously there's a good side of it, but there's also some challenges of growing up around Hackney. Because what was this sort of like, mid-2000s?
Yeah, so I would say it really started for me in 2008, 2009. My older brother kind of left home, and yeah, a lot of things started to change. We started to get older, the boys that I grew up with, and it was kind of that where we kind of lived was kind of a hindering, to be honest, because where we lived, we was in an area that wasn't gang affiliated, but other people from different gangs lived in that area. And that kind of made it very awkward. So you had one side of Hackney that was a Pacific person who's passed away now. He lived there. Another side of Hackney, but they all had beef. But because we grew up with each other, we never took it to that level. So because of where we lived, like I said, was not a gang affiliated area. Even though we lived in an area in Hackney called Boxall Crescent, is where I grew up. The other areas that was around us in E9, we never had no dramas with anybody. So because of that, because it had a lot of boys in that area, people naturally would have expected us to be a part of a Pacific gang. And that's where the testing situations really started to happen. One of my friends, and where it really kicked off, one of my friends, who's one of my best friends to this day, he found a bag, literally walked in the park, which is unheard of, and found a big suitcase of weed. Those days, he sold it for like 4 or 5 grand. That's a lot of money at 15, 16. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, he sold it, and then obviously because when he made the money, he was like, oh, you know what, man, them hair, innit? Because it's like, hair. Because he's not a seller, innit? He just found it, literally kicking football, and found it in a park. And then after that, one of the gangs heard he found it. They didn't know who found it, but he found it. And then when they started kicking off people's doors, innit? Trying to get the money, and stole some items out of his house and his house. So obviously, I love my friends, innit? And obviously, I always knew how to protect myself. So my thing was like, nah, man, flip this. But I was originally a part of the same gang that was robbing my friend's house. And I was like, nah, man, I'm not a part of that. I'm not going to rob my own friend that I grew up with. Before you lot, these were my friends, you know? So I always kind of felt protected over my friends. And then that's when it kind of really spiraled out of control.
I think, because one of the things you touched on, which is like, lots of people that I've spoken to about this, and I think what an outside perspective doesn't get is how complicated it can be, because I think people think of it as quite a simple thing, don't they? They think like one gang one side, one gang the other side, like people don't know each other. In actual fact, it's like, it's a community, people have gone to the same school, you know, honestly, they know each other.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, because when you really look at it, yeah, in Hackney, where I grew up, cousins was fighting cousins, like full blood cousins, you know? To the point, it was like, how do you even fathom that you're beefing your own cousin just because he lives in a different area? Do you know what I'm saying? So when you actually look at it now and take it in and actually think into your mind that it was really like my auntie and his auntie are sisters, and we're at a family gathering. Uncles and uncles are all here together. People that you grew up with from literally age of 8 is been through your family home. And just because of specifically because of a road, and where you're from and they're from, everything's changed, you know? Especially the school that I went to, we had every single gang that's involved now till this day was all in school, but never had problems with each other in school, until we all left school.
Until you step outside the gates.
And that's when it all changed. Like when we all left and went to college, that's when it all literally changed.
And how are you navigating that environment?
So for me, it was tough because obviously, like I said, I was originally from a certain gang in Hackney, which was one of the E9 gangs, right? And I was a part of them growing up. And basically what happened was, because of the area that I said I lived in, and the other area that we was affiliated with, as I said, because I grew up with my friends, and some of my friends who wasn't involved in gangs, who was making money, the gang that I was a part of, they was jealous of that. Do you understand? So they tried to make me set up my friends, and I said, no, I'm not doing that. No chance. It's not happening. You know, and obviously I had an older brother, like I said, they wanted me to do the same with my older brother and my cousins, who was a part of another gang. And I said, no, that's not going to happen. Obviously, my brother was never in his gang specifically, but my brother was kind of just his own entity. Do you get it? So because they used to see that I was always looked after, like I was kind of blessed how I grew up. I didn't have to go shop. I didn't have to go sell drugs. I didn't have to do none of that. Do you know what I'm saying? I didn't have to do anything that all my other friends did because I was looked after.
One thing, so not everyone will understand what getting set up means. Can you just explain what that?
So basically, like how I would know you, I would basically lure you to an area and say to you, meet me here, and then there's a group of people waiting there for you to take or whatever you've got on you, basically. And because I said no, I wouldn't do that, that same gang turned on me. Do you get it? So when they turned on me, remember like it was yesterday actually. I was punched up in an estate in a block of flats, and one of the guys I remember to this day is actually now in prison for murder. The guy that did it, he obviously knew I played football, and I remember him throwing the bike at my leg saying, I'm going to end your football career. Like literally, I'm going to end your football career and make sure you never kick ball again, ever. And then anyway, when he did that, it was strange because in that gang that I was a part of, I was actually loved by everybody. Like I was one of the man them, innit? Everyone had respect for man, and I was loved because I did things for them that was obviously like, obviously at the time when we grew up, a lot of it was fist fighting. It was like, okay, Pat knew how to fight. I never really carried a knife. I was never really on that, but I was always on like, if we're gonna fight, we're gonna fight. Cool, that's my thing, innit? But I had a reputation for fighting, innit? And obviously, when that happened, people in my gang was surprised because the gang that did it to me wasn't my Pacific gang. We were joint together. Do you get it? But they had their beef and we had ours, and obviously we inherited their beef because we was joint. Do you know what I'm saying? And because of the person that I was linked to and connected to, they rushed me over it. So when that situation happened, obviously my brother and that found out, I left that gang straight away. I said, no, I'm done with this. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm fully done with this. So I took a break out of it. I said, no, I'm done with all this gang stuff, man. Let's just leave it alone. But my life was actually just normal until something else happened.
When you're taking a break of it, what does that involve? Because that's hard, because it's like every day and all the people that you know and stuff are still involved in it.
Yeah, it was hard because my friendship group changed. But my thing was, as I even sit and talk to my friends now and my missus now, and near enough every single person in London can relate in terms of young people anyway that grew up in the environment that I grew up in. I was saying it to my missus and I said to her the other day, like, if you ask near enough a guy that's grown up in certain Pacific areas, yeah, why are they involved in gangs? And it don't have to be money, it don't have to be anything specific, but where we lived, it wasn't the cool to be a chef. It wasn't the cool to be somebody that's a working class person. Where we grew up, it was all about clothing, expensive items, looking good and making money. Do you understand? So it wasn't the norm, or football. But how many of my friends made it in football? There's a handful that I know. Do you get it? So it was the norm to be in a gang life, innit? And I remember the first situation that made us, me and my friends, the way we are, my close set of friends that I grew up with, was there was a Pacific person going around in Hackney basically saying to everybody, it's either get down or lay down. That was the saying, innit? So he was going up to people and saying to them, if you're not gonna be with us, you're against us. And people were just getting forced into the gangs. Do you get it? So that was the first proper situation at 14, 13. Bear in mind, we were just, like I said, we were just guys that played football in their state. That was the first proper thing that and I remember to this day, me and my brothers was literally, my friends was chilling in the park and he come up to all of us. And one of my boys said, no, innit? Then he literally slapped him in his face. He said, no, I don't want to be with you lot, innit? And because he done that, he slapped him, innit? And bust his face open, innit? So his face was bleeding. And then he came to rest of us, innit? And obviously one of his other friends had a knife. So that was the first incident that we all was part of, which we were forced in. Some people kind of just said yes to be a part of it, to make it cool, so they'll leave them alone. But really and truly, that wasn't the right way, you know? And mentally, like when you look at that at 13, 14, you're dealing with something like that because of the fact you're growing up.
Yeah. So what was the next, like, so you took a break from it.
Yeah.
And then you get drawn back in, or what happened?
Yeah, so obviously when I was saying earlier, regarding one of my friends who found the bag of weed, that was when I took the break. Obviously, there was friends that I grew up with. They weren't really fighters. They were just more footballers and chilled in the area, and we all just grew up together. So obviously, I always, like I said, I love my friends in it. So when his house got kicked open, he's got a disabled sister, and he lived with his mum in it at the time, you know, and he wasn't a fighter. I wouldn't say he's a fighter in it, and also my other friend as well, whose door got kicked open as well. He wasn't a fighter, but all our mums were very close, so we used to chill together in it. And if our mums was all at work, we always at someone's house, so we always looked after each other as brethren, you know, as friends. We always spent all our time together. So when that happened to them, and I knew who it was, there was a guy that I brought to the Pacific gang itself that we all grew up with that instigated that situation in terms of getting people to rob them lot's house, innit? But they didn't rob mine, innit? Because obviously they couldn't get to mine anyway, and I would see them. So when they done that, I caught that Pacific person and I literally just battered him. Like I punched him up and I said, how could you do that to us? Like we're all friends, you know? Like why would you do something like that? Anyway, that probably wasn't the best thing to do at the time. When I've done that to him, he's obviously gone back and called the guy that was doing a get down or lay down situation to obviously come talk to me, innit? And obviously do what he needed to do. So when he's come to me now and said what he said and whatnot, he's obviously approached me and told the guy that obviously I beat up at the time to slap me, which he did. And then obviously that was it. That was that situation. But now, obviously me and my friends, we was all kind of in a situation now that the gangs that they had problems with didn't like me, but my friends was cool with them. My friends used to chill with them. But I had family members, I would say, that I grew up with that was a part of those gangs. So certain gangs didn't really touch me. And then that's when like my name really started to change really, because I basically joined the gang that I had problems with. Does that make sense? So I became like a snake to everybody else.
But just like, I guess from the perspective of like, a lot of this was you were just surviving the environment you were in. So it's like you have to make these alliances or whatever because situations are escalating or...
Yeah, because it was weird because it's like I've gone from having problems with these guys, but now I have problems with the guys that I was a part of before. So because of that, like I said, it changed my whole perspective on everything, because I'm sitting with a guy that I've probably punched in the face before, and we're now on the same team, you know? And then when that changed, obviously I became a part of them, and then that obviously just changed the whole, the space of the whole drama, the whole beef, you know? The whole beef, you would say, because I was now specifically a part of a certain gang.
And then what were some of the things that you're seeing as well? Like you're talking about the intimidation and like the drugs and stuff. What are some of the other things that you were seeing that were a product of that?
I would say the hardest part that I was seeing is friends dogging out other friends, you know, friends that knew they grew up with each other and you're just setting each other up to make money or to get one over in each other. That was probably the hardest part because it was a cutthroat world, you know. Obviously, even being in the gang that I was a part of, people that are in the same gang are doing the same thing to each other. Do you know what I'm saying? Even though, yeah, you say, oh, it's a gang and whatever, cool. But the reality is that people are snaking each other on a daily. You know what I mean? And that's the stuff that I was kind of seeing. I was just like, come on, man, like, where do we kind of go from here, you know? And I get it, though, because I get it and I don't get it, because especially the drugs environment, yeah? It's one of them environments where you can make a lot of money from it, but you end up one way in it. Someone is going to try and take your stuff. It's either going to be the police or someone is going to try and take your stuff if they feel you're not that person. You know what I'm saying? And it's obviously, it's illegal, isn't it? So obviously because it's illegal, it's the world you live in, you know? Theft, robbery, that's a part of it. It's a legal system. So the reality is, it's either you become the killer or you be killed. Just how simple it is. That's just the honest truth, innit? Like, there's no way sugarcoating it or cutting it around that other than that, really. And obviously, one thing that really stood out for me, like I said, was one of the gangs that I was a part of, was that when I was growing up, there was a girl that I grew up with, and I used to see her all the time. We used to chill in the same estate together. She used to come to all our football tournaments. And basically, the gang that I was a part of, they ride out. So a ride out would obviously be you're going to the people's area that you have problems with, and shots was fired. Not aiming specifically at her, but it hit her. It hit her in the neck, and killed her. Yeah, and that one was like really tough because I knew this girl, innit? I fully knew her, and it was just like, yeah, man, this is not what I grew up with, you know. I didn't expect that to happen, sort of thing.
Because you've been on ride-outs before, so
yeah.
you knew what they were, but you'd never seen any consequences that was like that.
Yeah, I never saw any consequences like that. Our ride-outs used to be on pedal bikes, group of us all riding. Some people with stuff on them, some people won't be with stuff on them. Like me, I never really carried no stuff because, like I said, I'd use my fist. You never really see me never heard of me of a guy carrying around a knife or anything, because that wasn't part of something I was a part of. Like I said, I always kind of went with my fist, you know. And most of our ride-ups used to be, like I say, punch-ups. We had fist fights, you know. But that's gone now. You would never see anyone having a fist fight unless it's in prison. And even then, it's kind of like, ooh, you might be lucky. Do you know what I'm saying? Because prison's got its own environment, which I've been very blessed to not be in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Why do you think that that's changed and it's sort of got worse?
I think why it's changed now in terms of where it's at now, I think it's changed because the kids today that are involved now is literally growing up for themselves in terms of, I blame it more on society because there's no community. And there's no community, there's no, what I said, the best thing I always will tell people about my story is that I grew up in the ends. Like, I grew up seeing Dalston Market, a vibrant market. I grew up seeing things that was together. So if I was, for instance, right, I got one of my close friends, yeah, Briggs, yeah. Briggs was like one of the only white kids in our area, in our community, yeah. And it was me, Briggs, and a few others. But like I said, he was the only, we didn't see colour growing up. Do you know what I'm saying? We grew up as a community together. And when I see these kids now, it's not that there's like a issue that is that we all grew up together as one. Do you know what I'm saying? But we had elders above us. These kids' elders are, if they're in a gang from 12 to 13, they're saying their elders are 16. How can you say that's a 16-year-old is older? We had elders above us. If I was 16, my older is 18, 20, 21, and his older is 25, and then his elders are 30. These kids have no elders. They're just doing everything how they view it, because you at age 12 and 13, you can make money. Do you know what I'm saying? And gangs specifically are targeting these younger kids to do certain things for them. And that is the main issue. The main issue now is that there's no community helping them. And why I go back to the Briggs point is that when I grew up with Briggs' mum and my mum, if Briggs' mum saw me doing something, she's dragging me by the hair. Do you know what I'm saying? And bringing me home back to my mum, likewise my mum will be doing to him. Do you know what I'm saying? And that was how we grew up as one. Like, how we grew up together in each other's households was like, we grew up as one because of the environment we lived in. These kids don't have no community. If someone gets stabbed now, right, the first thing someone will do instead of helping them is film it. No one will say, oh, on my days, like, is that person all right? Then they put it on social media, it's out there. That wasn't the case when we grew up. If you saw someone trying to do something to harm somebody, your first instinct would be to stop it. There's none of that. And that's where it goes back to the community aspect. The community aspect is totally gone everywhere. People nowadays only care unless it's on their doorstep. Just
going back to the shooting and then that being a wake-up call, like, how did you find out about it? And do you remember, like, your feelings?
Yeah, obviously I saw it, and obviously I heard it from a couple of the man them, and I spoke to them. And yeah, in my mind, like I said, I didn't really say much because obviously I knew the girl, innit? And obviously other people had different views on it, but me, I knew the girl, so my thing was like, nah, man, this is not cool. I was still a part of the gang up to a certain point. I would say I probably left gang life like mainly 19, 20, because I'll explain a bit more. Like at 16, 15, when I finished GCSEs, my mum moved me at Hackney. But before I just moved, one of my really, really good friends that used to play football.
Wait, why did your mum move you?
Oh yeah, so I'll touch on to that, sorry. When I finished year 11, which is where I failed my GCSEs, when I remember I said I changed and joined to another gang, which was what all happened in the space of a few months. I had that Pacific gang that I had problems with outside my school every day. So I had to take cab to an alternative provision that I went to. I had to then basically do my GCSEs there. And when they took me there now, that's where everything changed for me really. But Borough Commander at the time said to my mum, like, if you don't move him at Hackney, he's gonna end up dead or in prison. Bearing in mind at the time as well, bless my mum, why she's so heavily in my career, and I always pay homage to my mum, is because if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be standing there. We was actually illegal. So that's another part of my story that I really let people know, that I was actually illegal from 2000 to 2009. Wow. The whole time I was in and out of trouble with the gang violence stuff and the police situation, not like getting him stuff for like theft and all these things. I never got found out once knowing that I was actually illegal. We only just got our papers in 2012 when my nan passed away. So my nan probably passed away like a couple, passed away in like summer, and then like a week after her death is when we got our papers.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was like one of the hardest parts, because all that time I was involved in everything. My immediate friends knew, but most people didn't actually know that. Do you know what I'm saying? So even when I was in school, I remember like it was yesterday, my school used to be like to me, oh, we're going to Spain or we're going to Italy and all these different places. No one actually knew. Do you know what I'm saying? I used to just turn it down.
You knew, and did you think about the risk of like what was involved?
I didn't realize it until I got older, because obviously I knew when I was coming here, like obviously that this was the plan, was that because my mum, she worked all her jobs in it. Like she made sure that me and my brother never wanted for anything. We lived in a 1-bedroom house, me and my brother, my mum's ex-partner at the time, before my sister was born. We all grew up together in that house. And we had everything in that house, because she made sure we had everything, you know. But I did know, but I didn't know the seriousness of it. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if they did find out, I probably would not be here.
Wow, it's crazy. So wait, your mum moves you out of Hackney. Yeah. That's when you go to Essex.
This is when I moved to Essex. Yeah, this is when I moved to Essex. So when I've moved to Essex now, it was weird, man. But I love it though. I actually loved living in Essex, like, because I live there now. Do you know what I'm saying? And where I lived is what kind of helped me to kind of change, but change in a good way in terms of how I carried myself, portrayed myself. I moved, obviously at the time, like I said, when I moved to Essex now, obviously I still carried on going back to the ends and seeing the man them and seeing how they are, because it wasn't too far from where I lived. I realised, oh, I'm only up the road, it's not too far like that, do you know what I mean? But I saw a difference to how they lived and how they grew up, because obviously I'm seeing kids with all got the normal, like I got my first bedroom at 16, do you know what I'm saying? And I'm seeing these kids with big houses, they're doing their first driving lesson, they're doing things that a lot of my friends never got to do until late, you know, until we could afford it, do you know what I'm saying? So when I'm living in this area now, they're very well dressed, they're clean cut, like, and their mannerisms was all different. Yeah, they were Cockney geezers and very Essex and whatever, but they spoke very well. And that's what changed me, especially when I started going to college.
Mm. And then you go back to Hackney, right?
Yeah, I go back to Hackney. I'm still seeing, obviously, because there was a brief spell that I was still heavily involved, and still seeing the mandem. And then that was what kept drawing me back, because I didn't feel like I fitted in Essex.
So you kept coming back, and then when you're coming back, are you getting sucked into the same stuff that was happening?
Yeah, the same stuff that is happening, because we're still all heavily involved. There's still dramas, there's still beef, like there's nothing's changed, innit? I just live in a different area. We're still doing the same thing. And yeah, it just continued really, until I was like 18 in college. So obviously I went to a football college called Bournemouth. And I owe a lot of homage to Bournemouth, because there was a period when Blackberry was going around, and I did a robbery. I stole someone's Blackberry on the bus at knife point, and Bournemouth kicked me out. They kicked me out, and obviously I was one of their promising players at the time. They kicked me out, and the manager that obviously now is the manager of the actual football club was my actual manager at the time, under 18s manager, Luke Gerard. And I always kind of pay homage to him and say to him thank you, because he sat with my mum and said to my mum, like, I'm going to get him back the following year to complete his program. Do you know what I'm saying? And he didn't have to do that. You know, because their policy is once you do that, you bring the club into disrepute, you are kicked out permanently. But yeah, Luke Gerard brought me back and I finished my year. But that following year, I got into a fight with a guy, which was not gang affiliated. The guy didn't like me, I didn't like him. He lost the fight, but he bottled me. He bottled me with a bottle and hit the front of my head and the back of my head, and I collapsed and I lost bare blood. But at the time, my friends chased the guy and then they couldn't catch him. Police found the guy, arrested him. But I woke up in a hospital bed with my mum around me and my blood everywhere, police, forensics. Police were standing there because obviously they thought obviously the guy might come back and whatever. And then they took my clothing and took it away and said, yes, it's for evidence and stuff like that. And yeah, my mum basically looked at me as if she lost her son. Do you know what I'm saying? Wow. So when that happened, that was like, yeah, things got to change now. Do you know what I mean? The things really got to change now. And then that's how I ended up getting my first job at 18, which was my mum got me a job in Poundland first. And then after Poundland, I got a job myself in River Island. And I stayed there for 3 years before I started the chefing program.
So talk to me about the cooking, because it's always been a part of your life, right? Yeah. And you're always putting up on social pictures of your...
Yeah, so luckily, like, when we came here, me and my brother, my mum always taught me and my brother how to cook. Like, from young, that was our thing, innit, to learn to cook, to love it, understand it. My mum always used to say, like, I'm going to teach her to cook as a man because she doesn't want you to be relying on any woman. And that was always her mindset, especially for me and my brother. So my brother used to do it first, then I learned straight after. So I remember my first dish I cooked for my mum was on Mother's Day, which was rice and peas, brown stew chicken, macaroni and cheese. I used to watch her in the kitchen all the time, and I burnt the first day I done it, I actually burnt the macaroni and cheese. So I cut the top of it off and I gave it to my mum, and she cried and said, "You've done everything right," which was good. But I just started practicing each time, practice. And then when I kept practicing, I used to take pictures of my dishes and put them on Facebook when Facebook first started. So I used to take pictures all the time, and people used to comment all the time and say, "Right, you can cook. Like, you actually can cook, innit?" Like, do you know what I'm saying? To the point, I actually started cooking for people in the area. Like, people used to say, my Jamaican name is Deshaun. So a lot of my family and friends, my friends that do know me, they call me Patrick, but my immediate friends that know me call me Deshaun, especially my mum and that. So they'd be like, "Can Deshaun cook?" Especially the mums and stuff, they all used to call me Deshaun anyway. So I would cook for like little events here and there, innit? But while that was all, obviously when I was going through what I was going through, the gang violence and stuff, I never really concentrated on that until I got the job in River Island, and one of my friends called Davis, who, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be the chef today actually. He got a phone call from Jamie Oliver's team saying, "Do you know of anyone that wants to come on the 15 Apprentice program?"
Yeah, we'll just back up. Can you explain because it's been a few years since 15 was running, but what was the 15?
So the 15 Apprentice program was a program that Jamie Oliver gave young people like myself a second chance, who was involved in different things, different problems. It could be prison, it could be homelessness. It didn't matter what the situation was. It was just a program that Jamie wanted you to do for a year, that he actually paid for, which was send you college. But Wednesday to Saturday, you were in the kitchen. And on Tuesday, you go to a day called Stud Days, which is basically learn about the produce and stuff you're working with. So we understood what food actually stood for and the food that you're intaking. Then on a Monday, we'll go to college to get our qualifications.
So just going back, so your friend...
Davis got the phone call from Jamie's team, and then Jamie, we was all in a group chat together, and Davis was like, "Yo, Pat, this is you. Like, we all know you can cook." But I was like, "Come on, Dav, why would why would Jamie Oliver give me that chance to go in and do that?" Do you know what I'm saying? And he's like, "Look, I'm gonna write this application for you and make sure you do it. At the time, I was playing community football for Davis's Arsenal Community Foundation anyway. So he was really in my corner, like saying, look, before I go to Dubai, because he got a job to go to Dubai to do the same community work out in Dubai. He's like, I'm gonna do it for you. He done the application. I went the first day, and then I was looking at it and I was like, I don't think I can do this, like, because it looked nerve-wracking. It was literally, it's not even far from me, it's like around the corner actually, 15. So when I've gone there, I went into the foundation. So the foundation is the hub that is similar to this, where we all are the workers that basically work with the apprentices, like the youth worker managers, and the people that mentored us, our counsellors and stuff like that. We would go and be there with them. And it was amazing because they offered us counselling for all the trauma that we've been through. They offered us support, financial advice, obviously because now you're going into industry where you can actually make money. And it was just crazy to see that a program for 1 year was jammed in so well. And then when I went in and saw it, like I said, I applied for the application, told them my background. Obviously I was working in River Island at the time. But obviously, for me personally, there wasn't no future I saw in myself for retail anyway. But like I said, obviously I went to that to see what it was like, and then I called my auntie, who's a baker in Hackney, well-known baker. I said, auntie, do you know the program, 15 Apprentice program? And she's like, yeah. If it's the same one with Jamie Oliver, then yeah, just go and do it. Just make sure you go and do it.
And because you get these celebrity programs, and like the celebrity's not actually involved, but with this one, Jamie was like a massive part of it, like was checking in, like you had a personal relationship with him.
I would say I met Jamie the first time. I met him the first time on my induction when I actually got through. So basically when you applied for the application, you had to go through 3 stages, which was the first stage was group activities. So in like The Apprentice, they used to do certain things because I thought it was just about cooking. Like it would just be about cooking, whatever. And I was like, if they told me to cook a dish, man's got a dish ready. So I was always at home in my mind ready to just cook a dish. But it wasn't about that. It was just about, they gave us, I remember like I said, they gave us £5 and said, can you lot as a group take this £5 and create a lunch for your team, innit, with the £5. So what we did, a few of the people that was in my group at the time, we went around to different stalls and some of them kind of donated stuff to us. So we spread the £5 really well. And then that was the first thing. So we passed that stage. The second stage was, it was basically another group activity just to see how we all kind of communicated with each other, got through that stage. And then the final stage was an interview. Why do I want to be on the program sort of thing, you know? And yeah, when I done that, I got in. But it was tough because there was at the time, I think there was about 300 applicants. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it wasn't like some easy thing that you had to do, innit? Like that, because obviously if it's cooking, I don't mind that. But this one was very tough because it was like, you have to actually like prove why you want to be here, innit? Sort of thing. And then it just changed from there. In terms of Jamie, the first, when I said I met Jamie the first year in the introduction, I did a few things with him. I got to make a cake with him for the Queen, when the Queen, I can't remember who it was, but I think it was the Queen or someone that was having a baby at the time. So I was actually on set with him because he had a team called the Food Team who worked above the restaurant and did all his filming. So that was the first time I actually got to see what he was like. And Jamie's just a funny character, man. He's cool. Like Jamie is one of the mandem. Like I look at him like one of the mandem, you know. I don't look at him as just someone that is just this big celebrity. Like he's actually very cool. Like when you see him, he's very quirky. Like he dresses young. Like he's cool, innit? You can have a laugh with him. He'll have a drink with you. And he didn't like some celebrities that I would say that I've cooked for. Obviously, I'll touch on after. He didn't remove his family away from the program. His family was heavily involved. You know, I got to cook for his sister. And I actually met his mum. And obviously I met his mum and I met his sister at a supper club, which we did every Sunday. So a supper club was basically something we did because Jamie actually turned 15 into a charity. So even though it was still his thing that he set up, he left it in terms of for it to run itself, you know, because the money that was made from the restaurant went back into the restaurant to fund the next program and fund everybody that was a part of it. Do you understand? And I think the revenue that the restaurant used to make was something like 3.1 mil a year. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we was a very, very busy restaurant. You know, we had people that flew from all over the world to come in, you know, and I remember one of my highlights, and near enough when I was finishing the program, I got to cook for Rio Ferdinand. You know, Rio Ferdinand came in, and this was around the time, obviously, his wife passed away at the time. And I even approached him and said, Rio, like, obviously, you're big, someone that I grew up to, you're like icon, like, obviously, I played football growing up. Can I take a picture of you? And I still got it to this day. He's like, yeah, it was cool. I thought he would have said no. But like, I felt like when it came to 15, because people understood what 15 stood for, people cared, you know? That then being said, a couple weeks after that, Ed Sheeran pops up. But one of the girls that worked for the food team, Jamie Oliver's team that did the food styling and stuff, she actually went out with Ed Sheeran at the time. So obviously when he came in, he used to come in to eat all the time. So obviously he was, again, I got to cook for him. So I walked up to him. Obviously I didn't get to take a picture of him, but it was just cool. Like, I'm looking at Ed Sheeran, like one of the biggest pop stars in the world, sitting here, and I'm getting to actually cook a dish that is going to him, you know? And he actually had a conversation with me saying, well done, proud of the program. It's nice to see that you're doing something for yourself, you know? And yeah, it was just, that was it really. It was really good. And then the final end of the program was basically Chef's Week, where all top chefs from the industry was invited down to run the pass. So obviously, I don't know if you know of a kitchen background, how it breaks down. Do you obviously want me to explain that? Yeah. So you have starters, which in some kitchens is called larder. You have obviously mains, and then you have pastry. So obviously in 15, what we learned was larder, starters, and we learned bakery. So bakery shifts you to start from 6 till 3 p.m., right? With a guy called Marcelo. So Marcelo used to teach us bakery, how to bake bread, make yeast, make a starter with fruit yeast and stuff. And then obviously starters is where you learn your hot and cold dishes, from your soups to your, charcuterie, which is like ham and all these different things that you'd work on. Then mains is where you make your main section, like your main foods and stuff. And then you have obviously your grill section. And obviously you have your veg section, which is incorporated with your main. So obviously you've got to make sure you have your veggies and your salads all ready to be put on the pass for the main to go out. And then obviously on pastry, you learn upstairs with the pastry chef, which was Carmen and Marilena. Yeah, I can remember Marilena. And you did that. So each section you would run for a month. So the first 2 weeks you shadow a chef on that section. So you shadow the chef. And then the other 2 weeks is when you actually learn to fully say, I can run this section. So the chef will step away and let you do your thing now and see how you do it. The first 6 months for me, I struggled. They didn't think I was going to actually pass the program because it was tough. Going from, obviously I lived in Essex, I lived the furthest out of everybody else. It was very tough because I didn't think I was going to complete it, to the point I kept having all meetings with all the staff, and every single meeting was, is he going to turn up? Is he going to be here? And I don't know where it was, but when I went on pastry is when it all changed. I really started loving the program, and it became my sort of love for it.
Was Jamie supporting you at that time that you were struggling on it as well? Or like, how did it work?
Yeah, Jamie's team was supporting me. I remember, like I said, when I first met Jamie, Jamie said to me, my whole life will change. And I think when I saw it, I didn't look at it in hindsight. But I kept seeing Jamie all the time. I kept seeing him in the mornings, obviously, because he starts as early as us. Like this guy you would literally, when he's doing his filming, you're seeing Jamie at 6:30, 7 o'clock. He's in early, do you know what I'm saying? Very early. And the only thing I ever saw from Jamie, like I said, was his dad used to drive him around in his Range Rover. Like I never saw nothing else other than that, do you know what I'm saying? So again, like I said, he's a rich guy, but he's very humble, like, and very calm, respected and cool. You see him walking up and down the street, you know, and Westland Place. And I remember, like, this is when I really knew what Jamie was like. And you would think a person like Jamie's got a bodyguard or security, but no, like I remember we had a party to celebrate his birthday, and the whole area next to 15 was all invited. It was a street party, and everyone was outside of him, you know, everyone was literally outside of him, and he was out there taking pictures, having a laugh, having a drink with everybody. But yeah, like that's when I really saw what kind of person Jamie was, and I said, yeah, this guy really cares, you know. But at that time, when obviously I was struggling, it was kind of more of my mum really. My mum was really making it hit home of that you can really do this, you know. Like, come on, like I'm 21 now. This can really shape my career, you know what I mean? So when that happened, yeah, it kind of just changed for me really. I really, the last 6 months of the programs where I really became the chef that I am today.
And then you enter the industry.
Yeah.
And like, I think a lot of people don't realize how brutal kitchens can be, right?
Yeah, and I think I went from a place in 15 where I was so looked after. I was cuddled, and I'll say cuddled. I knew that whatever I did, someone else would be there for me. But in the industry, it all changed. It all literally changed. Like, I would say, like, it was very, 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 very tough. Obviously, I'll explain in a minute.
Actually, just going back, because 15, I guess it's like, it's not like a normal, it's a different program, because everyone on there has got a challenge, which is the reason that they're there.
Yeah.
So like, what were some of the other things that you seen playing out with other people, and like, how did that work as your group, like together, like going through that process?
Yeah, it was tough because some people was from different walks of life. Some people were in gang. Some people were involved in different things. Some people went to prison. I remember one specific incident in college with a girl who we both had a disagreement, and she got angry and she pulled out a knife, a chef's knife, in my face, innit? So she
Wait, this is on the 15 program?
Yeah, it's on the
program. She's gonna stab me up, and that was the altercation. You know what I'm saying? In the end, they calmed her down. They got the knife out of her hand, but she had her own challenges. Likewise, I had mine. Do you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that incident happened. A couple of people almost had a fight. Almost had a fight with a couple of people myself. Because it's a pressure environment, isn't it? It's a heated environment, and it's all. Remember, there's 18 different young people on this program. Do you know what I'm saying? And we're all from different walks of life, and we all view things differently. Do you know what I'm saying? So when that happened, it was many different things happening. It could be a thing where one person doesn't do something on the section, and you're coming in and you're going to start service, and you need that thing for the section. But it's like, wow, why have you done that? And then you get into an location from there, and you're both looking at each other like, okay, let's go outside then. Do you know what I'm saying? So there was very different points where, because it was heated moments, but by the end of it, we all kind of became very close friends. Yeah, we bonded. We'll say we all talk now, but we all kind of know each other, and just say we got through that year. It was emotional. I cried, like, because it was like, how did we even get through this year? You know, because you went from seeing these lot every single day to now not seeing them anymore. You know what I mean? They've all gone on to do different things. I've gone on to do different things. Some people are still working in the industry. Like a couple head chefs doing very, very well for themselves. And yeah, we're all doing different things really.
And so, yeah, just going back to entering the kitchens, because it's like, it's tough. Like you were saying, like very hierarchical, almost like the military in the way that it works. Yeah,
so when I grew up in the industry now, like industry's changed now, so I'll touch on that. Industry's not the way it used to be. So when I grew up, pots and pans was normal to be thrown at somebody. If you mess up and you bring, like I remember one time when I was working for a company, right, which I worked for a good while, I must have cooked this potato gratin, which is like a layered potato that is cooked for like 6 hours and you put it together, but it was a part of a Pacific dish. And at the time I didn't know that, I lost my taste buds. When I didn't know that, it's because I used to basically drink coffee and Red Bull every morning to get through the day. Because chefs, we don't eat. It's a normal thing for us to do 12 hours, get through it, back to back, 4 days straight, and there's no food, just water. You're just grafting. Do you know what I'm saying? So when you go into a restaurant and you think, to yourself in this restaurant that this guy is just, we graft, innit? Like that is the hustle and bustle, innit? But because you're together in a little family, you're just there to graft and get through it. So I remember, like I said, I was cooking, I put the gratin and brought it to the pass, and chef's gone to me, is this warm? I'm like, yeah, chef, I just took out the oven. So he's obviously stuck his spoon into the gratin. When he's stuck his spoon into the gratin, he's gone to me, give me your lip. And I'm like, why? He's like, give me your lip. I'm like, all right, cool. Then he's put it on me, I think it's gonna burn my lip, innit? It's actually cold. And he's like, look, it's cold. Don't bring that to my effing pass again, because if it happens, I'm gonna throw it at you. Then he's gone to me, could you taste that you're seasoning this? I said, yeah. And he said, okay. So he seasoned something and I tasted it, and he's gone to me, taste this. But I couldn't taste anything and I didn't know. So then he's gone to me, what do you drink in the morning? What do you do? I'm like, chef, I come in, drink a coffee and drink some Red Bull. From this day on, when you're working in this restaurant, do not drink a single Red Bull and a single coffee. I want every single day that you're here with me until you decide to leave. For the next 6 weeks, you're gonna learn to train your palate again because you've lost your taste buds. Then I realized I lost my taste buds because actually I couldn't taste anything. So I used to basically every morning, I'll come in and bless him, like he would make me eat the herbs, but I'll blindfold the herbs so I know the herbs that I'm tasting. And that's what gave me my taste buds in them 6 weeks. But in that moment, even though I was in front of everyone, it was quite embarrassing. It was quite like, why is he doing that? But he actually helped me. I remember one time after I left that place, I was doing a bit of agency work at one of a very top Michelin-star restaurant. I was there working there, helping them for a little while. And basically one young guy who, again, he was younger than me, but he was working because obviously he was working on a section. And I remember the lady that was a sous chef there said to him, be quick with the food, be quick with the food. And he kept messing up. I kept seeing him mess up, kept seeing him mess up. He kept messing up, bringing the food late, He took the pan and threw it at him, swore at him and said, if you flipping do that again, I'm gonna flipping kill you. Obviously he's heated at the moment, there's pressure environment, she threw it at him. Obviously he's crying now, he's pissed, innit? So obviously this was, like I said, this was the norm. You know what I'm saying? And obviously he can't say nothing to her because that's how she grew up, you know? And this is what they say is that shapes you, you know? But there was many incidents of that happening. Chefs fighting, chefs swearing at each other. It was just the norm.
How did it compare to some of the stuff that you'd seen on the streets?
Because you know why it was weird, because why I smile about it now, no disrespect to some of the chefs and stuff, yeah. A lot of them are not cut out like that after they leave the actual kitchen. They just quirky, they just different, and you'd see them on the street. Bear in mind, like I said, no disrespect to a man that's shorter than me, but this guy is shorter than me, but he's my head chef in the kitchen. But he talks like he's so bad. Do you know what I'm saying? He talks like he's that guy because of how it gives you the confidence in the kitchen, innit? And that's the only power he has. But when you leave and you see him on the street, he's the biggest coward you will see. But in the kitchen, that's not how it runs. Is that even though he's whatever, or she's whatever, or they're whatever, it's how it runs in the kitchen, because it's literally like the army. Because if your sergeant is talking, it's yes sir, same in the kitchen, because of how the hierarchy goes, innit? Whoever's above, whoever's below, you always have to respect who is above you, even if it's just one level. So it goes commis chef, demi chef de partie, senior chef de partie, junior sous chef, and head chef, executive head chef. Sometimes a restaurant might have a turno. A turno is basically someone who is in between a senior sous chef and that basically a head chef. But because of how big the brigade is, which is how big the actual kitchen team is, they may have that. It depends, innit? It just all depends. But there's a level of hierarchy. So the commis chef can't talk something to the demi chef because the commis chef wants to be in the demi chef's position. Demi chef can't talk a certain way to the chef de partie. The chef de partie can't talk a certain way to the senior chef de partie. And then the junior sous can't talk a certain way to the sous chef, and the sous chef can't talk a certain way to the senior sous. It just all kind of, that's the level of how it's got to be. But everyone's got to answer to the head chef because his name's on the line. It's his menu. It's his. He's the one that everyone comes to for everything. But the higher up you go, is the less cooking you do. So when you become a head chef, it's a lot more paperwork. Executive head chef, the same thing. You oversee everything. It's very rare sometimes that you see a lot of executive chefs still in the kitchen, but a lot of them, because they love the hustle and bustle and working, they like to be on the pass and running everything and make sure they overtake everything and see everything.
Yeah, and so like that, and that's a tough environment. Like, I think like a lot of people don't realize like when they're sat in a Michelin-star, like what goes on behind the other side of those doors. Like how through your career did you manage, like, because like you manage those situations, or like when someone's in your face, or you know, or throwing a pan at you or whatever?
I think you just learn to just deal with it. It's because it's the norm, innit? It's not like it's an environment that you can't just go say to your colleague, how do you feel about this? Because your colleague's probably been through it already. So there's not no therapist side of it. There's not no, 15 had that before it closed, sadly. Like when I've had a tough day, I used to be able to go in the foundation and talk to the staff that was working with the current program and saying to them, yo, like, this is what I'm going through. But it was the norm then, do you know what I'm saying? And a lot of chefs dealt with it. And to be honest, if you wasn't strong enough, you wouldn't survive, you know what I'm saying? And you wouldn't, even if, because there's chefs that love cooking, really love it, you know? But because of the environment, it scared a lot of people away because it was a male-dominated industry at the time. And the ladies that were there, that are there now, especially ones that are head chef, they're strong because a lot of it, not to be a certain way, it is very disrespectful towards women because the good chefs that was in there, that are women that are in there, they get treated a certain way, you know what I'm saying? And they have to overcome bare sexism, bare people trying to make them a certain way because it's a male-dominated industry. Do you know what I'm saying? And because it's the norm of how they set it up, it's literally why it was the way it is. But now, a lot of that's changed. You're seeing a lot more ladies in the industry now. You're seeing a lot of them running big kitchens, big brigades, and doing their thing in it. But if you talk to 95% of them, they would say to you, it wasn't easy for me to get here because they had to overcome so much. Whereas a lot of the other women that were in the industry, they just left because they couldn't deal with it. You know what I'm saying? It's an environment that you go in. If you're not thick-skinned, you would not survive. At the time, I was going through it. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I was used to the pans and like working 4 hours. No, working literally, I used to do 4 days on, 3 days on, 3 days off, sorry, which was like starting from 12 to 12, back in again, start at 12 the next morning, get home about 1:30, couple hours sleep, and sometimes it might be a 7 a.m. start, finish at 10. That means I have to clean my section. So you still got to clean your section down. It's not like, you cook and someone else comes in and cleans your section. No, I've got to clean my section down, catch the last train to start at 7 o'clock again. Wow. And then you do that 4 days on and then 3 days off. Do you know what I'm saying? And that was the norm. But you don't get paid for half of that. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, cool, they'll top it up and say, we'll give you service charge and, give you like £3 or £4 on top. But sometimes it wasn't really worth that, you know what I mean? Because half of your life, the first 3-4 years, I didn't see my mum. I lived with my mum, but I didn't see my mum at all. Like I would start from Monday, get back to Sunday. My days off are Monday and Tuesday, which I'm sleeping. I don't go out, don't see my friends, don't see anybody, don't go to the family functions, there's no time for that. Do you know what I'm saying? And that was, my norm.
And then you were racially abused in the kitchen.
Yeah, that was tough. And that's where I literally said I'm done working in the industry, to be honest. So I worked for a company that was a big contract catering company in the city that did staff dining and executive dining for the biggest banks, law firms. So I used to work for this bank. I used to work on their fine dining section. And basically, I was working with this head chef for 2 years straight, and this was my first senior position. And I was excited because I didn't really, when I was going through my environment, I don't want this to sound a certain way, but he was the first black head chef I was working for. So I was excited to see, that could be me one day. So he inspired me in a way, seeing him sort of thing. First got the job, came in and cooked a dish and they were happy to give me the job. So this was my first chef de partie job. I was there for 2 years. Things were going really, really good. Doing my thing, I was on decent pay now and it was good. And then 7 to 8 months in it, things just started to change. He used to say certain things in the kitchen, talking about, especially we used to talk, because in the kitchen we talk about bare different things. And he used to, when Grenfell happened, he made a joke about Grenfell saying, did the firefighters get their marshmallows out? And we was all looking at him like, why are you joking about something like that? Do you know what I'm saying? I pulled him up on it. Not in front of everyone. I said, chef, like, come on, that's not jokes that you make, you know? Oh, it's just jokes that you make with your mates at the pub. I said, no, that's jokes you make with your mates at the pub with you. But around us, you don't do that because we're not on that. People died over this situation. I got people that knew family members that passed away in it to this day. So that's not a funny thing to joke about. Oh, I'm sorry, whatever, cool. But things started happening that was really getting to the point. And I think from that day on, when I questioned him and I pulled him up on it, he kind of got to change as a person around me. As I said, I hit my 2 years. I was running late one day in the morning to my section, and I said, chef, look, can you jump on my section for me? So in this kitchen, because it was a small team, we did breakfast, lunch and dinner. So we started breakfast from 7:30 to 10, and lunch started from 12 till 2. So it gave us 2 hours extra of prep to start service. So at any point, even though we said that's the time limits, the execs could come in at any point to ask for food at any point. Do you know what I mean? These are multi-millionaire bankers. Do you know what I'm saying? So I was running late and I said, chef, can you jump on my section? Can you do my section for me till I get in? I used to cycle to work because everywhere I used to live, I used to try and make sure that whenever I got a room, I would be able to just get in to and from. So when I've got in now, he's on my section, he's running my section for me. I managed to get there about 7:45, 15 minutes late. Changed, ran in, and then he started mumbling stuff under his breath, but I couldn't hear what he was saying. So I said, chef, I'm here now, thank you, can I get on my section? We pushed out breakfast, and then he's like, why the F are you late? It's black people like you that don't deserve to be where you are today. Black people like you need to go back to Jamaica on your banana boats. You're a disgrace. Like, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't have no easy life in the kitchen. Like, you're just a bum, like you're shit at your job. Sorry for swearing. And he was just saying some really vile and disgusting things to me. So at the time, I've gone in the bathroom, I've cried, but I've called my mum and I've called my partner and I said to my partner, like, what's going on and stuff, how I'm dealing with it and stuff. And obviously I'm crying because I'm angry. But in my mind, there's bare things going through my mind at this moment in time. And I remember as well, I'm talking to the man them in the group chat and I'm telling them, they're saying, go punch him up, go punch him up, go punch him up. I'm like, punch him up for what? Because where am I going to gain with this? How am I going to get out of this? Like, what good does that make? So when he said them things to me now, I've come back out, I've wiped my tears. Obviously, he's seen I'm pissed now, innit? He's seen my face now, innit? And then he's kind of backed off now, innit? And moved to the fridge and his section, his corner. The sous chef seen me and kind of came to me. And bless the sous chef, man. He's still one of my people I have to thank to this day, to be honest. Because I thought the sous chef could have, when I complained, the sous chef actually could have said, no, that didn't happen. Because the sous chef is effectively the head chef's number 2. He said word for word what I said to the head chef, what the head chef said to me, sorry, and how I responded to the head chef, which I never said anything back. Because obviously I think when you go through something like that, people naturally say, when it's actually happening to you, I will punch them straight away or you'll react in anger. But no, you freeze. I felt like a little kid. Do you know what I'm saying? I felt like, even though I'm taller than this guy and I'm bigger than this guy, there was no words or energy that I could actually have in that moment because it was happening to me. Do you know what I'm saying? So when that happened, I finished off my shift, went straight to the restaurant manager. I told her what happened, and I was still had to carry out my shifts for the rest of the week. Nothing was happening at all. Then I contacted HR, let them know. They done an investigation. Everything I said, what happened, was relayed back to them word for word. Then they decided to move me to another branch. When they moved me to another branch, I was there for a while while they were investigating it and doing what they needed to do. I put something on Facebook and I said to everyone, this is what I went through the last couple of months. It was probably the hardest time of my life. It was very, very tough. It was emotional. I didn't really speak ins and outs or at anyone or say this is who done it to me, but I just spoke about the situation. Head chef then popped up on the actual comments because someone alerted him, saying to him, look, he's talking about the situation. And he continued to cuss my family and friends on there. When he continued to do that, it became, obviously now it's a hate crime. So I contacted the police, made them aware of it. They got involved. When they got involved, they gave him a stern warning and said, if this continues, you will be obviously arrested for it. He then gave an apology. Then when that happened, I got signed off work because I was stressed. I couldn't even cook anymore. Like, there was no reason for me to go in anymore. I was off work for months, off work for a little while, went to the doctors. Doctor signed me off, and then basically after a while, I was off work while that was all happening. I just went to the company and we had a meeting now with the actual HR manager, and I said to her, listen, you've got a choice. You pay me out for the time that I've been off for, or I'm going to make sure every single person know how your staff treats people and what's going to happen really. And then some mediation happened, and they paid me out, and then I left, and I've never been back in the industry since. I've never worked for anybody. I've had some really amazing job offers, but I've never gone back to work for anyone specifically because I just ain't for it. And then I just started doing my private catering. Private catering. Before I started my private catering, I helped Levi Roots before, when he had a restaurant in Stratford, helping up his place for a little bit, which was really cool. And that's what gave me back my passion for Caribbean food. Saying, look, I want to go back to doing Caribbean food. So after he closed down, I really started pushing my own self-catering stuff and becoming more of a private chef for myself.
You've cooked for some pretty impressive people as well.
Yeah, so obviously at the time of my career, the biggest person I ever actually cooked for, which was Samuel Jackson, when I was working at Brown's Hotel for a little bit, which was really, really cool. He was a really nice guy. Cooked for him that day. I've cooked for, I don't know if you remember, but Bobby Shmurda. Cooked for him recently in the summer. He came over in the UK. But the list goes on really. Grateful that I cooked for that. And I think that one of the coolest things I did when I became self-employed was working on a Netflix series for 2 weeks. That was really, really cool. Don't know what series it was, but it was Netflix, and they're the ones that looked after me and my friend that was doing it for a little while. And
this is cooking, like...
Yeah, I was cooking for the actors, which was really, really cool. And I was the first, like when the actors was talking to me, they were saying this is the first time, obviously, because all the producers actually worked for Netflix, so they worked on different things, and a lot of them was like, this is the first time they actually had Caribbean food at the sets, because they're used to just getting sandwiches and stuff, and actual cooked Caribbean food every single day with breakfast and lunch was kind of like a big thing for them, so that was really, really cool. But after that, I decided that because I'm not going back in the industry, I want to do something full time that I enjoy while I push on and be busy at my craft. I want to do something that I love, which is mentoring kids from the similar backgrounds to myself. So I basically, while I was a chef, which I didn't really touch on today, I used to go in with the Met Police and do talks about my story and my background.
They came to you when you were at 15 or just after?
Just after at 15. So they came to me when I was just after 15 and said they saw one of my Instagram videos that went viral, that they would love for me to come in and speak to the other young people about how to get into chefing and how the gang violence stuff is and where you can end up, sort of thing. And obviously, in the time, when I was at 15, I was known in the community for what I've done, do you know what I'm saying? And how I turned my life around. So I became especially in Hackney, like a mini sort of celebrity. A lot of people knew me because they saw the Jamie program, and if you'd ask, I'm 30 now, so if you'd ask people 15 years ago, would you expect Patrick to be a chef, accomplish the things he's accomplished? No chance. There's not in a million years that you would expect me to be sitting there talking to you in that time. So when all of that happened and they said that, I literally just, like I said, I used to go into schools, talk to them about gang violence and stuff, but I was doing it voluntarily. So before I started a shift, I would go into a school, come in, do my 12 hours, and then do what I'm doing. So I continued to do that, and then I started to contact schools, and what was helping me was the fact that a lot of employers liked the fact that I worked at 15 because they knew the story at the time. So I was able to go in different schools, gain experience, and kind of do my thing. So I started working for different local authorities, and kind of building a reputation for myself. And that's when it kind of really changed for me in the last probably 6-7 years now. So I've been fully employed working as a youth worker who stops kids from going into care for a local authority, and basically teach them, the semi-independent kids, how to cook as well. I've done a few stuff like that with them, and yeah, so the main purpose of my work is to basically stabilize a young person's placement. If they're obviously in foster care, can we get them back to their parents? If not, if they're in foster care, can we stabilize that foster care placement for them? If they're in semi-independent, try and give them life skills and life lessons. So I do that obviously Monday to Friday, while I do my private chefing based around that, and I obviously still play a bit of semi-professional football and stuff.
Yeah, and like, was it like, do you feel like you've gone full circle in terms of like, now you're working with the kids that were maybe in similar positions to what you were?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been a learning curve for me, especially I've come up to this year. I'm going to be 2 years in, and basically it has come full circle because there is kids that are going through what I went through. There is kids from different backgrounds that are in the same thing that I'm in, that I grew up in, but it's tough because in my mind, when I first started doing the job so intense, I want to help every young person, but learning with the professionals I learn with, especially my manager, which is probably the coolest manager you can have. She's just a saint, man. I learned so much, because I'm constantly learning on how to understand these kids and how to maneuver it and maneuver their situations and put my mind and not think, because I used to think like, 85% of the kids are like me, which is not the case, you know what I mean? Every kid have different needs and different wants, and different understanding of certain things. Some are much more faster than others. Some are much more taking information at different points to others. Sometimes you've got to let kids just learn the hard way and let them do their thing. But you also see the good side of working with a young person for like a year and a half, for them to turn around and say, I've got GCSEs and I've got a job and I'm doing okay now. And that is the nicest points of it. But there's some days that there's some kids that you can't help. Some kids that are so heavily involved that end up dying. Do you know what I'm saying? I've seen where I've worked at a previous place where a young person in the area that I currently live in, a young person at the time that worked with my previous colleagues was involved in an incident, and that incident obviously made him and his friend tragically lose their life because obviously they were robbing houses at the time, and another young person ended up stabbing that young person to apparently protect his family. That's how the story was. Don't know the ins and outs of it, but it's sad because that kid was actually at the organisation I was working for a year before, and then you see the after effects of it, that 2 kids have lost their lives and people are in a situation of who's taking the blame, because now 1 kid's looking at murder and 2 kids have passed away. That's 3 families affected by a situation. You know what I'm saying? So you see so many different aspects of it. Kids that you're working with that end up in prison, that are now committed in situations that they shouldn't be in.
Yeah, I'm just interested because it's like, with coming full circle, some people might ask, like, once you've kind of broken out of it and you've moved away from like dealing with that horrible kind of like traumatic situation, why would you then go back to it? Do you feel like you're the best placed person, or like?
Yeah, I would say that, because I feel like kids that are involved in what they're involved in, because there's kids that are not involved in the stuff that I've been through, but there's kids that are in care, which is I learn about their story and their background, so they inspire me every day and say, how do they cope? But why I feel like I'm the best person for it sometimes is because I've lived it. I get it. Like, I get why you're the way you are. Because naturally, most people think that kids that join a gang is because they just want to kill people or stab people. That's not the truth. Like, some kids join gangs because they're bored. Some kids are in gangs and they don't even want to be there, But that's the only constructive thing they have, because it's the only friend. If all their friends are doing it, yeah, I'm not being in a funny way, right? 9 times out of 10, most kids are gonna go follow their friends. Do you know what I'm saying? And then you'd be like, oh, but the parent and mum. Okay, but how many parents and mums and dads is struggling to make ends meet? And how many parents can take their kids out of the areas that they live in? Not many. So you end up living in the environment that you're from. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know many people that got to be where I am because of the mum that I had. Some people don't have that. Do you know what I'm saying? So you got to look at the root cause of the issues. There's no youth clubs. There's no things for these kids to do. So they're gonna do what's in front of them. Do you know what I'm saying? And they're gonna learn that behavior. If you see my friend that is 13 and 14 walk around with a fresh pair of trainers, and you ask him how did he get it, and he says to you, oh, so and so gave it to me, and so helped me. How do I meet so and so? It's a common effect. It's a natural effect in it because of what you're seeing. If my friend now, like, let's say for instance, I play PlayStation with all my friends, all my boys, right? If a 12 and 13-year-old don't have a PlayStation, but his friend's got one and his friend's got it from doing something he shouldn't be doing, he's gonna follow that child because his mum can't afford it. Yeah. That's just how it goes, and that's the cycle.
I'd be interested to know, do you think the situation is worse now than when you were young, or better?
Yeah, definitely by far worse. There is, the kids now are stabbing and thinking later, and are doing crimes and thinking later, because when we were kind of growing up, there was a level of things you wouldn't do. You know what I mean? I didn't really see a lot of people die from both sides. It wasn't so heavily a killing thing, or just more of a score kind of thing now. And the stuff now, like when you look in it all over, especially the whole UK, because knife crime and gang violence isn't just a London thing. It's actually, if you look at the statistics, there's other places in the UK which is much worse than London, but because London's the capital, they make it look like it's worse. Do you know what I'm saying? And the reason why I say it's much worse now is because there is nothing for these kids to do. Do you know what I'm saying? So the unsociable free time that they have, they're left to fend for themselves. You know what I mean? With the living cost of the living cost that's going on with the parents and stuff, and parents have to do so much more now to even survive. And even when the government and stuff say they're gonna, rise wages and stuff, it still doesn't help, because you're still just about you're living to survive. You're living from paycheck to paycheck. So it affects the whole community. So it is much worse. It's not just much worse for the kids because there's nothing for them to do. It's much worse for the adults that are working with them. Do you know what I'm saying? So, and it's also much worse for us as the professionals, because we will start a role and a funded program. That program gets taken away from us in a couple months after the good work we've done. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's really, really tough on that aspect.
And I think, because you wanted to talk about also like Essex, that's another thing of like it's spreading out of like even those parts of Essex that wasn't affected by it. You're seeing that out there. Yeah, and man. But you're also working on some projects.
Yeah, so I've got that at the moment. So obviously, when I moved to Essex, the area that I moved to specifically was to get away from my everyday job. Not saying that it wasn't in that area, but I didn't see it often because the area I live in is a very affluent and expensive area. I'll give you a quick story actually. My missus was even speaking to me about it yesterday, saying to me that basically because of this really made me know the area I live in. The people in the area was complaining about a Poundland being on the high street. And because of the Poundland being on the high street, they've moved the Poundland into the actual shopping centre so no one can see it. Wow. They said it was bringing down the area. And that's the area that I live in. That then being said, go back to the story of the 2 kids that passed away when I first moved to the area, which was actually outside my house directly. I contacted a guy that is called Thomas Skinner, who is a guy that was on the Apprentice. I contacted him a year ago about the gang violence stuff, saying to him, look, can we connect? Obviously, he's a big social media presence. He never got to see the actual message until, as of least recent, when another young person passed away, and it affected people a lot. 16-year-old was killed by 2 boys. I shouted at him and said, look, can we connect? But I had to shout other people that I met over the years that I think had a connection to him, and said, look, can we connect? Can we speak? Can we sort something out? So he's got a gym in my area. He's got a gym in Brentwood. So he's got a gym in that area specifically for for boxing, for aspiring boxers. So he's created the Amnesty box. And I then spoke to his gym co-partner, who's Huey, who's one of his really, really close friends. And me and Huey started liaising and speaking, and spoke morely to Huey and just basically said, let's connect and bring this together, and let's try and connect a program together where I'll do the help on the youth side of it, mentor them about, knife crime and gang violence, especially if they're carrying a knife. They'll do he offers to do the free boxing lessons and obviously pay for their train fare to come down if they're from London. But when you look at it where I live, it's not like an area where it's not far from London. Two, 3 stops on the train, you're in London. Do you know what I'm saying? Even though where I live, sorry. Yeah, so at the moment we've got that going on. Tom's done some stuff about it on the news and stuff. Obviously I've spoke about it already, and we've met some few influential people. So at the moment we're just kind of waiting for the feedback from the local authority. One of the councils met us in the area and said they're going to get us some funding for it, which is really, really good. And yeah, just starting really, and just trying to see where it can lead. And actually, because there's a lot of kids in that area that are up to no good and not doing much, and who need that guidance. So obviously boxing is a really, really good way to kind of say, look, put the knives down and get your gloves up, get your frustration out. And these are professional boxers as well that are willing to help you. So yeah, that's currently happening at the moment while I'm still doing my other stuff.
Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on or go through?
Not that I can.
We covered everything, right?
I think we covered everything, man. Not that I can think of really. I'm grateful, honoured to be here. I kind of enjoyed doing stuff with you still, because obviously you allow me to get away from the formal everyday life and the life that I live at the moment, which is really, really good, to be honest. Like I said, I'm grateful to be where I am today. Do you know what I'm saying? I pay homage to Bournemouth Football Club, who probably helped over 1,200 boys over the years of giving them, college football together. That helped me, my teachers, and all the mentors I kind of had. And I think I'm grateful that I kind of listen to the elder generation, especially my mum. Like a lot of the time people always see why I'm always out dancing and partying with my mum is because my mum's my friend, man. That's the person, that's my dog. Like I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for her. Like she's just, she's a little gem, and I think when you look at it, like the story that she's go through, and believe me, one day, like I'll do like a cook up and you come around and you meet her and you see, if she tells you the stuff that I put her through, it would be like, how are you still standing? Do you know what I'm saying? And I think she has kind of seen that in the person I am today. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm grateful to have that. And I always say to young people, like, always respect your parents, because you only get one. Do you know what I'm saying? And that is what a lot of these kids sometimes don't realize. But obviously you can't help your situation, because not every parent's good. Do you know what I'm saying? And not every person's good. But I try to find the good in someone and say, you know what, let's just try and just push on to be the best versions of ourselves. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, no, I'm grateful, man.
Jamie still messaging?
Yeah. I see him the other day at a sad occasion, to be fair. I've seen him twice at 2 sad occasions. Two graduates have passed away recently from cancer in a year's time apart. But there were 2 big graduates that was a part of the program. So what I decided to do when I saw him, he heard about it, I created a WhatsApp group. So I created a WhatsApp group with all the 15 Apprentice graduates from all different year groups. I'm talking graduates that are like 15 years older than me that I've never met. And there's about 60 of us now. In total, I think when I spoke to Jamie and I saw him the other day, there's 480 graduates, but those are some that are from Amsterdam and some that was in Cornwall, because there was 3 actual programs. There was one in Amsterdam and one in Cornwall. So I created that WhatsApp group, and majority of graduates are all around the world. Like one of the graduates I met the other day that I'd never met before, the guy cooks on tour with Beyonce. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, raw, like, and he's like, yeah, do you want to come on tour? And I'm like, bro, like, this is mad. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't have not known that if we didn't create that, And I kind of said to, when I saw Jamie and I spoke to him the other day, he was just like, he's sad that he keeps meeting me at these occasions, but he's like, it's good to always see you because I'm always kind of vibrant and happy. But I said to him, like, after those situations of those people passing away, I wanted that place of a WhatsApp group where we all just connect. And some people have that opportunity to say, look, I need a job or you need a job, because that's what 15 was created on. It was created on that if I'm in the industry and you are in the industry, doesn't matter what, I'm going to look after you, you're going to look after me, sort of thing. So yeah, there's loads of graduates who are doing amazing things. Some people got different private chefs here. Some people working at some really top restaurants. Some got Michelin stars. Some are doing incredible work, you know. So that's the group.
See how many lives it's touched.
Yeah. And I think from what I heard, the percentage is that 87 is still in the industry. 3% gone back into prison, and other 5 or 6% is passed away.
So that's incredible numbers,
good,
isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? So it's great numbers. Obviously, I've spoken to Jamie, and I do hope in the pipeline that, because he's opened a new restaurant that we all went to recently, we do bring that back, because it was an incredible program. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of kids from this day right now could benefit from that. Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, he went through his own issues as well, losing a lot of restaurants, and that's obviously people knew about that. And I think if we could ever get that back, it would be a real touching part, you know. And that's my goal, is to have one day when I finish, is to have a restaurant where I am coaching young people how to cook and do the same thing and enjoy food and love food, you know. It doesn't probably have to be a fine dining aspect that I learned, but it could be a very nice, comforting place to go in, get a qualification, and turn out to be something of yourself, you know, especially for the younger generation. So that's me in my career, really. That's what I would aspire to get at some point, is to own a restaurant, and to kind of restaurant that can teach young people, really.
Hey, it's been a pleasure, man.
Anytime, man. Thank you.
Thanks for watching On The Edge. I've been chatting to Pat Campbell. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe for more of these stories.